Tony, thanks so much for your time. It's good to see you.
Good to see you too.
What's prompted the proposal to downsize or potentially close some of the Canterbury police stations? And as you'll realise, many communities seem quite upset about this.
Oh, well, if there's 2 points I want to make is that we're not downsizing any staff. That the sworn numbers that we have right now will be the same sworn numbers that we have once the proposal is landed. The other thing, we're not closing stations, with the exception of Arthur's Pass, and we haven't had anyone there for now over 2 years. So with the exception of Arthur's Pass, we're not closing any stations either. I suppose what your question was about what's led to this, and if we go back about 18 months, we started to have a look at the demand we had across the district. We were seeing, on occasions, our staff were starting a shift and there was already a number of jobs that weren't attended from the previous shift. And it puts a lot of pressure on them. They weren't happy with the fact that they got so far behind, and because they want to provide the best service they can. So it started as looking at our demand, having a series of workshops with our staff to talk about, what are we getting wrong here, and how can we provide a better service to the community. Those workshops led on to us getting more curious and having a look at from an evidence base, where are we providing good response times? Where are we providing our best service? Where are we not, and why? And it led us to we need to have a look at our structure now, because the recurring theme that came through those workshops and came through that evidence review told us that our structure wasn't fit for purpose.
Okay, so you may not be losing police numbers, but is it fair to say that there is the potential that some community constables or people that belong to some of these rural communities will no longer be based in those communities? They may in fact go to the likes of Rolleston or Rangiora.
Yeah, in the proposal, it is bringing some staff into a more centralised hub, I suppose. But the point I want to make is that actually, for many of those places, that's how we are providing the service right now. Selwyn's a good example of that. We've got a 24/7 response out there on our structure. That's not 24/7. Rolleston's a hub that's growing exponentially, and we need to make sure that we're providing the right resources to that area to do that. As it stands right now, that's the model we have. This is really bringing into structure. The other point I want to make about that, this proposal has an impact on about 120 staff. That's about 12% of our district that will be impacted. And for many of them, they are already in the roles that we are proposing. It's a small number that are outside that.
So when you say that 120 staff will be affected, do you mean the locations that they work in will be affected, or not their job functions?
Yeah, so it might be that their role, probably an easy example is a community beat team that we've had in the city now for over 12 months. So many of those roles that have gone in to make that up, we're confirming them in our structure. So they're already doing that job.
Right. What do you say to some members of the community who will be angry regardless of these proposals, saying that they'll lose their local country cop, the person that almost is a hub in their own right, somebody that helps the community together and has that institutional knowledge of the farm down the road, or knows where people live, that perhaps those in the more metropolitan hubs don't?
Yeah, so it's very important to us that we still provide that service. What we pride ourselves on as an organisation is that our staff are great problem solvers, and we want to maintain that. And for some of these roles, they are distracted on doing that by doing some of the other demand that comes in. What we do know, there's about 5 positions which are being proposed to move to doing a different type of work, and most of those are actually going into road policing because that's where most of the demand is. We know for a small number, we've got growing demand for our road policing services and a diminishing demand for more general services. What we don't want to take away from our rural communities is that good problem-solving capability. We just want to make sure that we free up enough of their time to actually be able to spend some concerted effort to do that. Often those things require us, over many months, and talking to other agencies and talking to the people at the centre of this, coming to a resolution on that. That's not something that a public safety team car, an emergency response in the middle of the night can do. That's a service that requires some time, and we're not taking that service away from the community.
Does it kind of suggest that if you are a rural constable in a rather isolated area, you're not always busy, so therefore we're going to put you in a hub where at least you will be busy, and if something happens, we'll take you back to your community on a need-by-need basis? Is that kind of the gist of things?
So not quite. So if, for example, if your location, albeit that it's rural, is quite close to a base now that does provide a 24/7 response, we're going to see an uplift in those numbers to make sure that if you call us at 2:00 in the morning, then we'll respond to you promptly. We'll still leave that role there to make sure that the constable that that you trust is a good problem solver. We still have that role for you in the community. It really is just a change in focus in terms of how we're doing this.
There is one concern, of course, that removing local officers increases response times and reduces public safety. What do you say to those concerns?
Well, so for many places in the district that are not in a location that you could respond to promptly, then we're not changing that service. This is only the changes we're making are for those locations that are reasonably close to a 24/7 hub. What we are encouraging our staff is, whilst we often talk about the location that they work at, they actually patrol on a much wider basis. And we're very mindful about what is a reasonable amount of time to respond, and that's what we want to hear from our staff about the feedback. I want to reiterate too, this is a proposal, and we've got, as I said to you earlier, we've done a number of workshops. We've done a whole bunch of reviewing of evidence and talking to our staff. We've got a proposal in front of them now. We want to hear from them to say, hey, how do you think this will work in terms of your service delivery?
Well, speaking of that feedback, are you able to share what some of your staff have said already? I mean, is there a sense of this needs to happen, or is there a sense of what?
It's a bit of both, really. So we've got some of our staff who have asked some questions in the early stages. We've got some staff saying, yeah, they like it, bring it in straight away. So we'll take in all of the feedback and consider, what are the things that we overlook? Because when any of these processes are underway, it's important that we hear from our people, hear what they've got to say about it, and consider what have we overlooked or what have we misinterpreted in the process.
Some members of the likes of Federated Farmers have said this proposal will make their members, their farmers, the rural community feel unsafe. What would you say to that?
Well, it simply isn't true. I saw some of the rhetoric about, we're closing stations and we're taking away their constables. Well, we're proposing to disestablish some of those roles. That is so we can establish other roles. And for some of those areas, really the risk is on our roads. And for some of those areas, there's got, unfortunately, the tragedy of how many people have died on those roads. And we really want to be able to perform better in those areas.
With this district review, there are other things. It's not just about looking at capacity of where your officers should or shouldn't be, right?
Yeah. So what we are proposing in this is that we're having an uplift in our frontline numbers. So we want to provide, if you ring us at 2:00 in the morning and you need us there right now, we want to provide the best service to you possible and get there as quick as can. So this proposal actually enables that. We're proposing to have an uplift on our public safety team across the district. We're proposing to have more road policing numbers, proposing to put more resource into youth offending. On any given day, we see that actually we have quite high levels of youth offending across the district, and we want to be better at resolving those matters. There's a whole piece of workforce that sits behind our front line about helping them with their files so they're not sitting behind desks. And that will enable our front line to be more visible as well. What we do hear from our communities is they want to be more visible. They want us to be more visible. They want us to tackle gang problems and making sure that they're not entrenched in our communities. We've now got a resource to assist us with that as well. Want us to be better in the retail crime sector, and as we discussed, that we are seeing massive improvements in that area as well. And they want our roads to be safe, and we will see an uplift in road policing numbers as well. So, overall, I think our proposal actually sets us up to move into the future in a really positive way.
The new police team, I don't know if it's a new police team, but it was a new operation that caught multiple recidivist shoplifters in Christchurch. What prompted the need for this operation? Because part of me thinks, good, you're coming down hard on these shoplifters, but at the same time, they're recidivist offenders. So they'll probably go to court and be doing it again tomorrow.
Well, it achieves a couple of things. If you remember, about 12 months ago, we started our community beat teams, and they've been great for the wider metro area in terms of they're going to malls, they're in the inner city, they're providing a great service, but they don't necessarily hold those files for the more what I'd call recidivist, hardened criminals who are targeting property from our retail sector to fund or fuel their crime, I suppose. And
a lot of them are family members. It's generational, isn't it? The same names.
Yeah, it can be. And also, what we do see is that a lot of it is there because they've got a significant health or addiction issue that they're fueling as well. So we want to make sure that we've got a dedicated resource to pick up those files, make the connections. So they're often, we might pick them up for one case, and then our team are looking across all the other information that tells us about what other offending they might have done, and is able to put a much better picture before the court on their level of offending.
I often wonder, what is the point of retail security guards now? Because they can't do much, because you can't apprehend an offender. Although I know that's kind of changed with government legislation, but at the end of the day, the amount of security guards, just because I'm nosy, I'll ask, well, what happens if somebody shoplifts? And they go, can't really do much. Really? What do you make of that?
No, I actually think they provide a really good service, and for those organisations,
a deterrent.
Well, as a deterrent, yes, but also in terms of that, they're quite good at capturing for us. If they've got someone who's been targeting their store, for example, they're good at capturing the images of them. They can provide us with some really good information about who's out there and who's offending, which often that information from one location will bring it into the other locations where these offenders are targeting, and gives us a chance to actually get some understanding of the totality of their offending.
There was some recent good news when it came to a missing elderly person who was thankfully found alive, and this was as a result of an emergency text message that went out that was geo-linked to a particular area. And I think the overwhelming majority of residents thought that was a great idea. When was it decided that this would be the way to go? And will we continue to see this type of action or alert should another person go missing?
So the use of geospatial information and to send out data to devices that are in the area is something that's reasonably new, and we're exploring. And as you've seen on that case, it was instrumental in terms of resolving that matter for us. Look, it seems that there's a real interest in the technology that we may bring to our organisation to help us with cases like this, and that's just one example. We're interested about how AI might enable us as an organisation, and we're exploring that all the time. I'm hoping we just get better and better at this type of stuff.
Would you consider using that tech service for an offender wanted?
We're certainly having discussions about facial recognition and being used, using them to help track offenders, and those discussions are still underway, and we're seeing that technology is improving all the time. We also had discussions about that to be offence located. If, for example, if there was a robbery at a certain location, sending out information to the devices nearby. Those discussions are all underway, wanting to know how we can use technology better to resolve crime, hold offenders to account. We're really interested in that.
It's an interesting new world, isn't it? It's evolving with AI so fast. Every week something changes.
Yeah, it's exciting, isn't it? So, we want to make sure we get the balance right about maintaining privacy, but what we are seeing is that technology is just improving all the time.
You're celebrating a milestone that is, it's significant. It's I'm not sure celebration is the right word, but it's the beat staff that have been across Christchurch and the malls. It's really nice to see them there. That has made a difference, hasn't it, from what I'm hearing from the business associations? Yeah. That visual presence is helping.
Yeah, it certainly is, and the focus they have on solving problems, they're in, and not just in the CBD, they're in our malls, they're in our bus exchange, and actually what we've seen, and as you said, the business sector have done their own review about how things are going and what are we seeing a drop in crime. Early indications are that the trajectory for this is heading in a really positive way.